Good afternoon, folks. Sorry I'm so far away, but Kitty decided middle of the couch was where he needed to be, so welcome to another front load, another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do the disclaimers, now, just like the other day, we're going to go through these quick because without concurrent days off, I like to try to milk my days off for every little small piece of time that I can get, all right? Okay, let's go to it, shall we? In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much, they've threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC sees through with their threat. Also included in there is the Ozarks First article, The Ozarks First article in regards to the Agape boarding school, also known as Stone for Help boarding school situation, a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens, that has impending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises with full access to the boys, up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault. The boys there. You have an attorney general, too weirdly obsessed with where people go pee, chasing drag queens, photoshopping images of them and lying. Oh, and who can forget the trying and the failing to defund the public libraries? That was cute. To actually do his real job, and you've got a governor that I don't even think should be able to be allowed to work behind the counter at McDonald's. So send help. Read that article. Share it on all your social media accounts. Also included in there, as always, the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including the link to the article we are getting ready to read in regards to the Andres lot coming out of New York. The ever-present, always there, massive archive, Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masemba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, and the ever-present, self-explanatory Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please use your headphones, all right? Now, this channel is marked trigger warning, not for children, for a reason. We use profanity and we do speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is very much advised, all right? All right, let's get to it, shall we? Now, this is coming from Medium. It's written by Betty Wolfganger. It was back from May 5th, 2022. This was about around when this legislation was first introduced to the New York Senate. Just to give you some little background here. These videos are going to be relatively short, folks, just to let you know. Yesterday, New York State Senator Jabari Brisport introduced S8935. One second. Allergies, folks. There we go. Andre's Law, legislation that would end the state's continued financial support of the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center and likely lead to the facility's closure. Remember, folks, we're not playing games no more. We've tried the other route, haven't we? We've tried to get our federal government to act like they have a conscience, but very obviously that's just not going to work. So we're going to have to take their power from them. Their power comes from their unlimited income off of the backs of the autistics that they take in from these states. We're going for the wallet. But let's read on, shall we? I've already stated that. Let's all take a deep breath because we've got a fight ahead of us. Ain't that the truth? Whew, goddamn. And I've been in it for a long time, folks. It is gonna get nasty. JRC has already issued a memorandum in opposition and will inevitably trot out parents who think that electrocuting their disabled kids has done wonders for them. Of course they will. Of course. They always do. But I want you to be prepared for, as it gets closer and closer to the passing of this bill, is that JRC is going to fight dirty. They are going to display us as completely and utterly out of control. They do this so that they would be able to show what they do as a way of stopping that out of control behavior. But it's a lie, folks. It's the same justification that used to be used for corporal punishment in public schools. Didn't stop any type of behaviors then, did it? Of course it didn't. I lived in the last generation, like right before it ended. It only made it worse. Way to put a chip on our shoulders, right? Of course, the actual victims and survivors of this torture will not be speaking on the behalf of JRC. The fact that disabled adults and children are subjected to electric shock, like Andre McCollins, who was shot 31 times for refusing to take off his coat, is not only outrageous, it is also unbelievable, and also completely unnecessary, as we've proven on this channel time and again. There are as many programs out there as there need to be, and there are new ones in development every single year, folks, because any logical person can tell you there is no one size fits all for any diagnosis. That is the dangerous thinking that leads to, well, among many things, misdiagnosis, over-medicated society, the list goes on. All that crap that they throw at us as fear-mongering was all caused because of the outdated ways in which they think the cookie-cutter method works. Very obviously it does not, but that's its own subject. Moving on, sorry. At the press conference, video is in the process of being captioned. One of the co-sponsors of the bill, Senator John Yoo, said that when he was approached by self-advocates, I couldn't believe it. I thought they were talking about a movie. It was really shocking that this could still be happening in this day and age. Andre's mother, Cheryl McCollins, pointed out that the reason there was a video of her son's torture was because some staff were hesitant or unwilling to shock the people warehoused in the facility. Remember how he used to say, "We don't warehouse kids." The hell else do you call it? But I'm supposed to be afraid of drag queens. I would leave with a drag queen before I would ever trust someone like Matthew Israel. I'm just saying. JRC administration was so worried staff would use their own discretion They installed cameras to ensure that staff administered the shocks. Think about that. Remember when I told you this place has a high turnover rate? One of the main reasons is so many people who come into and become employed by this place, when they get there and stay long enough, they become so horrified that they leave. Of course, this sounds unbelievable. Researchers helping me follow the money from New York State to JRC, good progressive with long social justice careers, asked me, "Are you sure that can't be true? Really? New York State has banned aversives in state, but due to a loophole in the law, we continue to send poor black and brown children out of state to a facility that tortures children." Thank you. This is something that the media misses a lot. The majority of the students that are getting sent to this place are people from poor, majority people of color communities. Communities that have the only resources they got are inside the schools. Remember in Dr. Israel, they tried everything. They tried everything. The reality is, they went through the school system, which is barely special eds are barely funded, folks. And just like the Missouri Department of Developmental Disabilities, more and more money is taken out of special ed department, both federally and state, every single year. The reality is, they haven't tried everything, because not everything has been made available for the parents that live in these types of communities. Don't make me get out the bullhorn, because I will. If you don't see the racism and the discrimination there, and the lack of public funding that has been promised every single year to these communities to build the resources that they need while they continue to leave disabled kids out, don't get me started. Because I've been fighting that fight since 2006. Our financial support keeps this facility running, and that is so uncomfortable that people who know better choose not to believe it. They can't accept it. They have to look away. And this is what we are up against. We have to convince people that this is even happening. We have to convince people that this is real. We have to force them to see before we can get them to see how wrong it is to torture disabled people. I've heard that from others, that what they're seeing is so horrific that it's more comfortable for them to push it under the rug than confront it. Then the same people will prop up liars. Reality is far more cruel than a liar's fantasy. Don't call yourself an activist while pushing a comfortable lie. Why my people are being tortured, starved, and even murdered. Right? Don't push your crap onto me while you continue to ignore this, because it's too real for you. Sorry, I said I wouldn't rant, but I'm fed up. I'm fed up. This person is your voice. That person is your voice. It's always liars, first off. Let's start there. They're always privileged in some form or another. And they are basically stuffed down our throat. And then you have something real like this. The reality of not just those kids at the JRC, but the reality of the disabled community across the world. And nobody wants to face it. Yeah. You want to be an advocate? Advocate is work. It's heartbreak. It's sacrifice. It's boots on the ground. Some cases, it's putting your life in your own hands. Anything short of that is nothing but activism for show. And I'm afraid we have no time for it. This isn't your liar, Queen. These are actual lives on the line, and I'm not going to waste time, precious time, dealing with you all. Sorry. I said I wouldn't rant, but you know how I feel on that subject. Let's put it this way. I doubt anyone from the media actually watches this tiny little channel, but just in case. Quit touting inclusiveness, diversity, how progressive you are, while hiding from the real things that are going on. Because you're afraid that your audience can't handle it. Quit fluffing them. That isn't news. You become nothing but 24-hour propaganda stations. You want to show me that journalism isn't dead? This is your story. It's got everything. It's political corruption. It's corruption in the courts. It's abuse and torture of vulnerable individuals. Majority of them being people of color. There's sex scandals involved. This is your story. It needs to be told. These kids need you to tell it. Let's finish up, shall we? If you are in New York State, we need you to call your state senator. Find out who it is here. And remember, the link's in the chat there. And you might as well call your assembly member while you're at it. Talking points. New York State continues to support a modern-day Willowbrook. In July of 2021, the District of Columbia Circuit reversed the FDA's ban on the use of electric shocks on disabled children. In a split decision, the court noted that this is an area that is traditionally the province of state law. This legislation will align New York state law with the best practices in medicine, education, and services for disabled people. Why is this legislation necessary? 40 states have completely banned aversive therapies because such practices are not necessary and are not recognized as medical best practices. But let me remind you all of that loophole called the troubled teen industry, because I'm not going to let you forget it. JRC may be the grandpappy of them all, but the same tricks, the same torture, the same exploitation is going on in the troubled teen industry that Matthew Israel helped create. So don't allow this to fool you, that just because the other states banned aversive practices as defined by the medical model, do not think for a moment it's not still going on, because it is. Moving on. The UN has declared that the aversive electric shock disabled people is torture. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has identified numerous studies that reveal physical harm resulting from the use of electric shock devices, as well as chronic lifelong mental health distress such as fear, avoidance, aversion, anxiety, and depression. Survivors of electric shock aversives report that it is painful, psychologically damaging, and often physically harmful, subjecting them to unreasonable and unnecessary risk of injury, pain, and illness. Research is clear that positive behavioral supports are safe, effective, less restrictive, and have greater long-term efficacy as treatment for people with self-injurious and aggressive behaviors. And before Dr. Israel enters the chat, yes, we do have the data to back it up. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Association of Developmental Disabilities, the National Association of State Directors of Special Education are among the many organizations that publicly oppose electric shock of disabled people. There is only one remaining entity in the United States still employing electric shock devices, and the vast majority of the people sent to this facility are residents of New York State. Excuse me, the storm is coming, therefore my allergies are just getting heightened to 11. Despite the institution's long history of violating state rules, which has resulted in numerous warning letters and multiple state inquiries, the state remains the largest financial supporter of the institution. In the last decade, the New York State has sent over $1.38 million to this facility. The state of New York has spent over $13 million to this facility since July the 1st, 2021. In March of 2022 alone, it sent over $1.5 million. Passage of this bill would strike an enormous financial blow to JRC because it relies so much on New York State funding. New York previously banned the use of electric shock aversives on New York students, but continues to give funding to the JRC and contributing to an environment of torture. Boom, right? What more do we need to say at this point? What more is there to say? This is it. You want to show us you're not all talk? Now's the time. We have one chance to strip them of the power that has allowed them to get away with this decade after decade after decade. We've got one go. One. After every other avenue has been slammed in our face. Please share this wherever you can. Not me. Forget this video. Send the link. Please. I'm going to go ahead and close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone. I gotta go check the mail before it starts pouring. Bye.